Welcome to the Stephen Rotsart podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Rotsart, and I'm here to provide you value. From my years of real estate experience, I'm here to provide you tips and tricks in the real estate industry and to have guests on that have impacted my life and that I think that you might be able to benefit from too. On this episode, we're going to dive deep because in a most recent article, more single women own real estate than single men here in the United States. At first, I thought maybe there was something interesting about it, but actually, I go back to my own personal data and what we did in business last year, and the statistics are the same. Stay tuned. So I wanted to get into this interesting topic of an article that was just published within the past week as of the date of this podcast, and it was put out by lendingtree.com. I'll have some links down below so that you can kind of take a look at those if you're watching it online. But it came out and said that there are more single women in the United States that own real estate than single men. And I thought that was a very interesting concept because I had never really thought of it that way. And still, I started reflecting kind of in my own personal business and what we did to help clients within the past few years. It goes on to say that there are 2.64 million homes owned by women than men. I kind of looked at it and went, wow, that's really kind of interesting. I wanted to dive deeper and kind of reflect on my own personal business and my own personal thoughts because I've had a lot of people question me why single women may be more comfortable using me as a real estate agent because I'd never really thought of it from that perspective, but I asked some of my clients and we're kind of going to give you some feedback. So over the past few years, I kind of went back and looked at my data of our clients and the demographics of our clients. And what I noticed is that there were 13% more women, single women, that we sold homes to than single men. Obviously, there's other transactions that took place, but I thought that was really interesting. So I kind of dove deeper and I contacted some of our clients, and it kind of goes into this in the article a little bit as well of the specifics. It was interesting to have conversations with them because there are varying ranges of our clientele, from anyone that is really just out of college to anyone that is in their mid to late 40s. We kind of ran the full gamut. We even had people that were elderly retired, single women, and those are some different cases as well. But what was so interesting is that it had a wide range of people that were single, divorced, never married. There was nothing really consistent in it, but what was consistent was how focused. They were so focused on their goals. It was amazing, and it was completely different. And I looked at some of my friends and clients that we had sold property to that were men, and it's a completely different mindset when it comes to real estate. And it comes down to kind of their investing strategy. Women, I noticed, were very focused and strategic in their investing strategy. Men, not so much. Men were willing to take higher risks, do kind of more of a smorgasbord investing strategy. And our women clientele were very specific in what they were going after. And it was really interesting to see that, and they put that to use. So I asked questions specifically, why real estate? Most of them had the same answer. It's a tangible asset, it's secure, I needed a place to live anyway, so I'm pulling real estate into my portfolio. One of the biggest questions that all of them wanted to answer, because I didn't really ask it directly, you sit here as a male real estate agent and you are asking these questions and they all look at me and say, but don't you want to know why I chose you to work with? There's a lot of realtors in San Diego County where I live and I work. There's a lot of realtors in the United States. And so this was actually an interesting question that was actually most of them brought on themselves. In every single meeting that we had, when we started to do kind of a buyer's awareness of a buyer's process of what it's going to look like to purchase a home in San Diego County, I brought my wife in every single meeting, let's say announced or anything of that nature. But you can tell, as someone I've been married over 20 years now, you could tell that they wanted me to understand from their perspective what they were going through. And some of them, what was kind of interesting is that some of them were in committed relationships, they had significant others, but there was one very specific goal across the board with every single buyer that was female. And that was they wanted to do it themselves. And they wanted to make sure that I understood that concept. I needed to understand from their perspective how important it was that they purchase their home by themselves. I totally understood it to the core. And especially when I brought my wife into the meeting, they understood that I was willing to understand from the female perspective how important it was. We always had private conversations away if there were significant others that got brought into the room, because everybody has priorities and opinions of what type of property they should be buying. In the end, the purchase was only one person. I had to make sure that all those priorities were met and that we were doing it for the benefit of that particular client. But it was so awe-inspiring, and at the end, when it was all over, multiple closings that we've had, you get this big hug and a lot of tears. And I think the tears are so great because it really is the reason that I do what I do, and to help people. In this case, it was to help single women that were purchasing real estate. They were so enamored with the fact that I understood what their goal was, and I was willing to do anything and everything to make sure that that goal saw success. Even though I included all opinions and what have you, when it came down to the end, at the closing, just the amount of tears that were shed, because a lot of them never thought it would become a reality. Some even had properties to sell and then buy their dream home that they wanted to live in. Some had children, single mothers. When you get brought in, you're getting brought into their family, and you are being asked to help and to do something that probably they have not trusted a lot of people with in their lifetime. And it's such an empowering thing to be able to help a family, and especially a single mother or a single female that is buying either an investment property or their first home. You can see that they're starting on a journey or continuing their journey in real estate that's really just maximizing their portfolio. Over the past couple of years with COVID and everything like that, we had a lot of nurses that came into San Diego County, whether they be traveling nurses or what have you, but was an enormous amount of funds that were spent, and they were working tremendous hours. So they had some very specific requirements, whether it be safety, locations to the hospital that they needed to get to. There's varying things from school districts and things of that nature where their children could go to school. And all these variables have to be weighed and accounted for on a continual basis. And so it was so fun because you really get in the trenches and you learn all about what is important to each of these individuals specifically. None of them are the same, but you get to help them on a different level and get brought into their family to really make a difference in their lives. It was amazing to me to kind of read these articles, and then I start reflecting. And this is consistent in 48 out of 50 states. Single women are outpacing single men in real estate ownership. The other thing that I found that was just most interesting is that I started to look at it from my males clients' perspective. Why? Because I think that I kind of said before, they have a different type of investing strategy. They invest in a lot of RITs, which are real estate investment trusts, smaller down payments to be able to just make a buck faster, spread out their investment strategy. But they aren't looking for a place that they can truly have a nest. And it was just a completely different type of conversation when I asked my single male clients that bought property. Most of them were investment property. They were either buying duplex, triplex, or fourplex type properties, especially our military clients. They didn't know how long they would be here. Most of them were scheduled for deployment within the next 6 months to a year anyway. So they look at property a little bit differently. It really just struck a chord with me to take a look at this article, and I've provided those links. So if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you check it out on YouTube, so that you can kind of see what the statistics are and how consistent that is actually within my own business here in San Diego County. I do believe that this trend is going to continue. We have seen a lot of women investors and women, single family women homeowners that are purchasing homes and continuing to purchase homes. It is great to see. It's a fantastic thing to see. And I love the fact that I even share it in my own family. My sister bought her home as a single female, and I'll never forget the day that she closed escrow, because the amount, just empowerment and the feeling of joy that she did it herself, I will never forget as her brother. And so that's what makes this really personal to me, I think, is that I understand from their perspective. I live it in my own family. I see my sister's success and the power that it gave her and everything that was behind her once she bought her first home all by herself. It just made a difference in the way she carried herself and the community she was involved in and all the different activities that she got involved in. It really made a difference in her life. And I have followed up with all these clients over the past few years that kind of struck a chord with this article, and I kind of wanted to see what was going on. And we are regularly in contact with all of our clients that have closed escrow. I wanted to see specifically if anything had really changed from where they were to after they had purchased. And every single one of them had the same thing, is that it has made such a big difference in their lives. Financially was the biggest thing. They have a secure fixed payment, and most of them, especially within the past couple years, have fantastic rates that they purchased on. But then the tax benefits that they received from now being a homeowner. So that was huge for their portfolio. Those that had children, they were just completely aghast because it really made a difference in their home life. The children had a nest, a place that they called home. They have had friends over, things of that nature. They're involved in the community, whether it be, church-based activities, school-based activities, things of that nature. But it really was so amazing to see how much home ownership can really impact someone's lives. And so it's been a special time over the past few years to be able to help these single women purchase their homes. I look forward to continuing that. And if you have time, I invite you over to kind of check out the links and look at the specifics of it. But it really goes to show you that I think we're headed down a track where that statistic is probably going to continue. And I believe the gap is even going to get bigger. I do believe single women will continue to outpace single men in regards to home ownership, and probably continue into the investment property as well. More so the fact that because single women got into the game early enough in real estate, that they can use and leverage that asset to buy more real estate and actually have a very nice real estate portfolio over a lifetime. I invite you over to kind of take a look at those links. I'd love to hear your comments, what you think in the comments about this as well. I thought it was an interesting piece. There are several news agencies that have kind of posted and reflected on this as well, but I wanted to take it personally because it gave me an opportunity to reflect on my personal business and what we've done over the past few years, and to see 13% of our clients were single women that purchased clients over the past few years. That was kind of an amazing statistic when you start breaking it down specifically. And I don't really notice it at the time. It's just you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a real estate agent to make sure that you're representing your client on your best behalf, and to make sure you're meeting all their needs. But to be able to look at it in hindsight and really reflect on it. And my wife and I had some great conversations about this to kind of really see what was important. And she had some very similar things to share that every single one of our clients did. And it made me feel almost special because someone is trusting you that much to bring you into their family and find something and a home for them to be able to be their nest for their future. So exciting times. As always, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. You can tune in on YouTube too as well if you'd like to take a look at it there. But until the next episode.